Oh man, here they come again.
Here they come again. This still has skin on the skull.
You mentioned about the lights in the sky before the experience with the cow. Are those two things related in your mind?
Yeah, they are. This is the same people who are the same entities who are abducting people, taking them, kidnapping them, raping them, taking the seed from the men, the sperm from the men, and the ovum from the women. There is a breeding program. We are the only research team that I'm aware of. We've connected the dots between the UFO phenomena and what the cattle mutilations are. Why? Look, when you take a cow and you mutilate it, if you were a friendly space brother, and I had a discussion with Chuck Zukowski about this, and Chuck goes, well, maybe they're returning it to the field because, they've taken the cow and now we're just trying to do the right thing in return. I go, Chuck, what are you smoking? I mean, are you kidding me? They've destroyed the animal. They've sucked all the blood out of it. They've surgically removed certain parts of the animal. And you're telling me that they're somehow benevolent because they're dropping it back in the field? No, this is in your face. They're basically flipping you off. They're giving you the bird. Yeah. They're going, hey, we can come and go. We move with impunity. I hope you're really scared, because you should be, because we can do this to you. That's what they're doing here. Make no mistake about it. And there have been human mutilations.
Really?
Which are have been. Not many, but there are some.
Wow.
We talked about that. Chuck, at the end of the film, talks about in Canada, a Mountie, basically their version of the highway patrol, is driving and there's a car on the side of the road and he goes over to it. There's a woman slumped over the wheel like this, knocks on the window, no response, calls the coroner comes out, ambulance comes out, they pry the door open, they look at the woman, and as the coroner begins to examine her, taking off, looking at her entire area like this has been completely surgically removed, cored out. No blood, and the chest area has been completely cored out. A mutilation, human mutilation.
Wow.
That's just one. I know of two others that I know of that happened. So it's not rare. Well, it is rare. It's rare. It doesn't happen all the time, but they do the same thing to the humans as they do to the cow. So these entities move with impunity. They take what they want. People have seen craft. People have actually seen cows being lifted in the field into the ship. So again, our research, we have probably, by the time we air this, well, we have 6 films ready now. By the end of the year, we'll have 9 films, probably 7 and 8. Probably 8 of them will be released. The 9th one will be released probably the end of January, February, maybe. I'm not sure. But it'll be done by the end of the year. But 7 and 8 deal with Roswell and what happened at Roswell, which is another topic for another time we can get into. But we believe we've connected the dots, and we're the only team that we're aware of that's ever connected the dots. So here's the deal. Let me just run this by you. The abduction phenomena, which is number 4 in our series, is real. Men and women are taken when they're very young, 5 and 6 years old. They're abducted. They go through the window, they go through the ceiling, they go through the wall. That's the future physics. They all say the same thing. They're terrified. They wake up in the morning, sometimes outside. Their parents will put locks on the doors, locks on the windows. Next morning, or a couple of mornings later, there they are back outside on the lawn again. How does that happen? They're terrified. They're alone. There's no one believes what's going on. Who would believe them? And especially with the girls, with the women, they are groomed all day long. They are groomed. They have a handler who is a fallen entity that can shapeshift and appear as a human, but that's not really what they are. How do we know this? Because we have 2 witnesses talk about the same thing. One is a Christian and has gotten out of the phenomena, Karen Wilkinson, who is the tentpole of number 4 in our film, who was abducted when she was 6 years old. The other one, I won't mention her name, doesn't know the Lord, and they're still being taken and abducted. Both of these women, no collusion between them, tell the same story. There's a handler who looks like a man, but he's not a man, and eventually they're raped by the handler. They're raped by the handler, and in the one case, she has a child by him, and willingly does it. In the other case with Karen, no, she's raped. She's absolutely raped, and it's in front of a whole group of entities, which they do this deliberately because these people were terrified, absolutely terrified. So we know that the women, and Karen talks about this in her book, which we're proud to publish, Stolen Seed, Evil Harvest. But she also is the tentpole in our number 4 in our film on abductions. And Karen, once again, was taken at a very early age, 6 years old. So when she reaches puberty, the abductions happen more frequently. Finally, when she's around 19, 20, she's impregnated. And she knows she's impregnated. She's pregnant. And she goes to the OBGYN, and there's a heartbeat and the whole deal. There's the child in the womb. At the 3rd month, she wakes up one morning and she knows something is wrong. She goes to the emergency room, and there's no fetal tissue. There's no heartbeat. There's no nothing. It's like the baby is completely taken from her. And the doctors in the emergency room, well, are you sure you were pregnant? And Karen goes, well, you can ask my doctor, my OBGYN. Yeah, we saw the heartbeat. I was pregnant. When that entity is taken from Karen or from another woman at the 3rd month of pregnancy, it just can't live outside the womb because it's very immature. But it's half, fallen angel, because that's what it is. It's a hybrid. It's a modern day Nephilim. It's a hybrid. It's part earthly human woman, but it's also the genetic makeup of the other side. Before I give you the punchline of the cattle mutilation, let me back up. If we don't understand the Genesis 3:15 narrative in the biblical prophetic, in our Bibles, in the guidebook of the supernatural, our Bibles, I call the Bible the guidebook of the supernatural because that's what it is. So Genesis 3:15 states, it's in the garden. You got Adam and Eve over here. You got the dragon over here. Adam and Eve have just sided with the dragon. That's why they've taken on the attributes of the dragon. That's where sin enters the race through Adam. That's where they embrace death, and death comes into the human race, to the entire planet. It was never supposed to be here. And so you've got the pre-incarnate Christ. And Jesus tells the dragon, your seed, your offspring will be at war, at enmity with the seed, the offspring of the woman. The one coming from the woman, the proto-evangelium, which is the first prophecy in the Bible, the Messiah will crush your head, you will bruise his heel. That is the gateway to the entire rest of the biblical prophetic narrative. That's why Genesis 3:15 it's imperative that we understand the Genesis 3:15 narrative. Because once we understand that, then the rest of the Bible opens up, and we understand what the seed war is about, who the Nephilim were, why the mandate comes out to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah, why the Tower of Babel, they confuse the languages, why the children of Israel go up against the seed of the dragon, because that's what's there. It's the full-blown Genesis 3:15 narrative. And there it is. It's about to unfold when Joshua and Caleb go into the promised land, because you have the seed of the woman. You've got the 12 tribes there, the seed of Abraham. Out of your seed, all the nations of earth will be blessed. But they don't know what tribe the Messiah is going to come from. They don't know that yet. They don't know it yet, even though it's there in prophecy. They don't know it. So the 12 tribes are there, and the Nephilim tribes are in the promised land. The Zanzumim, the Emims, the Anakim, the Nephilim, the Rephaim, they're all the Horites. They're all there. So it's the seed war fully manifesting. The war is about to happen. Joshua and Caleb, the seed of the woman, is about to go in and fight the seed of the dragon. And guess who wins? It's unbelievable when you look at scripture like that. It opens it up. in a way that I'm sure you've never heard of. But it's the seed war that on that field of battle is the progeny of the dragon and the progeny of the seed of the woman right there. And the churches don't teach it because they don't get it, because they don't go back at Genesis 3:15. Now, the seed war is gone on. It's going on. Daniel chapter 2, verse 43 tells us that the book is going to be sealed up until the last days, till the latter days. Seal up the book, Daniel, until the time of the end. That's what the angel tells Daniel. And then he gives us a supernatural clue of what the time of the end will look like. Men and women will run to and fro over the face of the earth. Knowledge will increase. So now we know what it's going to look like. As we are speaking, Tony, men and women run to and fro over the face of the earth via the airplane.
Yeah.
Knowledge increases exponentially. We're here in the last days. The book of Daniel opens up. Chapter 2, verse 43. What does it say? Their seed will mingle with the seed of men, but they will not cleave to them. Let's walk through it. Who are they? It's not the seed of men. So who are they? Goes back to Genesis 3:15. Their seed, mingling of the seed. Cleave, that's the work of Jim Williamson. Cleave is the same word that we get in the Genesis account of a man leaving his mother and father and cleaving to his wife. It's a marriage contract. Well, there's no cleaving. There's no marriage contract. Welcome to the modern day abduction phenomena, where Karen Wilkinson, who wrote the book and is in our film, circling back now to where I left off before this great rabbit trail I just went down. But so Karen is taken and abducted. The seed of the dragon goes into her. The seed is mingling, but there's no marriage contract with Karen. They're just taking what they want. She's been taken, that's kidnapping, and she's been raped. And now they've come and they've taken the entity from her womb, but it's only the 3rd month of gestation. So that child, that entity, I don't want to call it a child because it's a modern day Nephilim. It's a mingling of the seed. Their seed will mingle with the seed of men. It's Daniel chapter 2, verse 43 all day long. That's what we're looking at. So the entity is removed from the woman. The entity is removed from the woman. It's got to go someplace. Bovine blood, cow blood, can be used in human transfusions. That's a medical fact. That's a medical fact. I'll say it again. Bovine cow blood can be used in human transfusions. They are taking the material from the cow and they are creating artificial wombs. And that entity is placed in the artificial womb.
That is wild.
There's no happy ending here, Tony. There's no happy ending.
Now I understand no happy ending. So that it's absolutely wild. And it's something that I have been trying to wrap my mind around. A lot of things you're saying here, I'm tracking with you on. And when it comes to the cattle mutilation aspect of things, my mind goes, 2, 3, 4 different ways on it. And because I've never studied it and stuff, I just talk to people who've had experiences and things like that. And I'm trying to understand why whatever is doing this, because anybody can say this is not natural. So it's not a natural phenomenon. It's a very targeted thing. And anybody can say, that it's not natural. But what I'm trying to wrap my mind around was why, like the why. So if something is doing this, what's the reason, And it never made sense to me. Like I said in the beginning of the show, how people will say, oh, well, it's the government, it's the military, black ops, all this stuff. I'm like, why? Like you can grow your own cows on a black site and do whatever you want.
Why are you doing that?
Yeah, like there's no reason for it to be military government activity. And it's not going to be the private sector. Somebody would have said something like, oh, that was me, just like the crop circle stuff. People, like, there's an ego involved there that people wouldn't be able to let go. And I've been looking at the idea of interdimensional entities, interdimensional beings, and traditionally speaking, people, when they think interdimensional beings, they think ghosts, they think demons. And when they think about those things, they think very immaterial. They think something that's not physical, but more your Hollywood ghostly see-through it because it can walk through walls. So, but there's a very real physical aspect to this interdimensional process. And what you're laying out there just shows it, because they're growing humans in human wombs for a set period of time. They extract those physical bodies and they take them into another realm where they're creating meat sacks for these babies to grow in that are coming from these cows. That's what you're saying.
Exactly.